Let's talk about sand profiles. How many of you deal with sand profiles? How many of you install sand profiles? How many of you like installing sand profiles? Anybody dislike installing sand profiles? Okay? So sand profiles are a good thing, right? Sand profiles provide what? Drainage, right? So that if it rains hard, we don't have a sloppy field, we can still play on it. But sand profiles also have a number of major limitations. What would be one as far as maintaining uniform field compared to a native soil, finer texture soil? Which one's going to blow out first, probably? The sand profile, right? Also, though, the way we do most things, we got other things that are going to occur with sand profiles too, huh? Most fields that put a sand profile in are going to be sodded. That sod that comes in is probably not going to be the same texture as that profile beneath it. Here you can see that on the right, the original sod layer here. Growing points are now up almost half an inch from that original sod because of all the top dressing that's occurred. You see an aerification hole right here with some roots going through that aerification hole. And there's one right here, and that's why this sand is all here. It's all clumped around a bunch of roots. But gee whiz, what? Half of that area doesn't have any roots at all going beneath that layer. So we want a nice uniform area, and that's the objective with a sand profile. That's not easy to obtain when you lay in sod or when you get into repairing fields. We'll look at that in a bit. I got two things that, just hit me every time I visited, not every time, but many times as I visited sand profile areas. And I've already hinted about the profile layers and the limitation that they occur. And here's just a close-up of that image earlier. Again, why does rooting not occur very well beneath that sod layer? Go back to, we started way back when. Soil properties. Come on, y'all know the answer. Soil properties, right? What are the properties of this soil that's going to limit rooting occurring beneath it? Fine textured clay. Clay, fine texture, all lead to what? Compaction, yes and no. Obviously, you see, if we are providing a channel by aerification, we're going to get rooting occurring deeper in that profile. But what else does it do? What does it limit? Moisture. Where does all the irrigation water go? Right to that layer, doesn't it? This layer's got to be saturated. You've got to have water on the surface almost before it'll start moving through that profile. So you got this big sponge on top of this nice sand profile. And that sand profile beneath that big sponge is not worth much if you can't get water through that big sponge. That big sponge also holds a lot of other things besides water, doesn't it? It holds all the nutrients that you apply. They're going to sit right there in that high exchange capacity layer before they move down. And the only way they're going to move down is to provide channels in order to move the nutrients and water through. I'll never forget Dr. Jim Watson. I think most of you have some knowledge of him. He used to work with Toro. And after he'd been involved, I think, in a number of installations, one of the first things they started doing after the sod was laid was start aerifying. Start aerifying the field immediately, and as much as possible that you could get away with. But I've been on a number of college football fields. They lay that sod. That field looks great when it's turned over. And the turf manager says, "You crazy? You want me to start aerifying this thing, punching holes in it? Those guys sitting up there in their offices looking down on this field. You want me to take this nice, lush, green-looking field, start punching holes in it, dragging soil across it, top dressing it and everything? You know, I don't have the cojones to take that one on right now. That's what a lot of guys will say. I think it's become much more acceptable nowadays, understanding that we got to start doing something to make that profile uniform. Because as much money as we spend on this field, the factor that's limiting its performance is that fine textured layer that the sod came in on. And if we've got a fine sand beneath it, it's not as much of an issue. If we got a coarse sand beneath it, it's a much bigger issue because we got difference in particle size, and those differences in particle sizes create differences in water holding and nutrient holding capacity. And if we don't modify that so that we get more uniformity throughout the profile, then we got a large limitation. Hey, if it doesn't rain much, we're fine. In fact, we're better off with that fine textured soil there, holding that sand, holding that surface together, than we are if we didn't have that fine texture there, because it provides a lot more consistency than a sand profile can provide. But if it's wet and it rains, you got a mess. You got a big challenge. So that zone, particularly when it's laid on straight sand, doesn't have to be all that great to have some effect on what's going to occur beneath it. This is a fairly new installation. Not a lot of soil on this side, but still that's what's limiting the performance of that grass, performance of that field. This is a shot showing you sod. You can see this profile here taken from this nice lush green area here. This profile on the left taken from this area here where Bermuda grass is thin. You know, that layer, is it always a problem? Well, no, not always. Close up here shows you that this side is a lot thinner, or this soil layer on this side is a lot thinner than here. This obviously was a repair area that was done probably during the season. They wanted thick cut sod to provide more consistency in footing. But now what? That manager's got a management issue that he needs to be aware of, that he may never see any effects from, but he needs to certainly be aware that he's got different thicknesses of soil on top of that sand now and needs to try and address those issues. Which one? Is one any better than the other? Thick one better than the thinner one? The thinner one better than the thicker one? Who wants thick? Who wants thin? Who don't want any? We don't want any, do we? But, again, unless it's raining, unless it's a wet year, this is going to provide you good performance. This is going to provide you more stability. You know, in that small area I showed you, you probably didn't need that thick cut because, you know, if you jam the sod in there tight, it would probably have held. Here's an example showing, again, different thickness of layers. This is a high school baseball field. This is a sand cap, just a few inches of sand, and I mean a few, couple of inches of sand. This is the infield. This is the outfield. Infield's a little bit thicker cut of sod than the outfield. Outfield's got a lot more thatch than the infield. How do you get more thatch in the outfield than in the infield? What do you think? They cut the infield more. What else do they do with the infield? Sorry? They do what? Probably pick the clippings up, yeah. But, you know, most of the time that really doesn't have a dramatic impact. What else? Top dressing. Probably top dressing the infield. continue to try and smooth it out after the initial installation, keep it smooth over the years, and then height of cut might be different in a high school situation. All those things can impact how much thatch develops and how fast it develops. How about this one, man? Gee whiz, what a sight. These are 3 profiles off of a new high school football field. This is the left sideline. This is on the middle of the field. This is on the right sideline. This gray stuff is a coarse sand. The contract said we want 2 inches of sand over the field. Contractor did a pretty good job, didn't he? I mean, if we average it out, we got about 2 inches of sand over the field. But in order to get the crown that they were working with, they would have had to excavate a lot more soil on this side to be able to put sand down evenly over the field. But evidently they got backed into the corner and didn't realize that, did they? And didn't want to take that on. So heck, man, you know, we put the sand down where it's needed to give us the crown that's needed, and we go on. Are we coming back to that facility? Probably not, huh?